Hello members of the Dark Knight Nation, and welcome back to the channel for this week's episode of Comics Insider, the show where we like to break down, analyze, and discuss all of the things that the comic book creators are doing within the pages that make them so great. And we like to break down the things that they might not be doing that are so great in an editorial fashion. This week we're going to be taking a look at the highly anticipated Strange Adventures #1 by Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and Doc Shaner. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this, and I know a couple of folks on Twitter have been asking me, how I'm feeling about it, and am I excited? Well, yeah, I might not have been the biggest fan of King's Batman run, but I feel like something like this in particular would really play to Tom King's strengths, and of course being able to see him partner up with Mitch Gerads is always a treat. That cool dichotomy explored through the art between Mitch Gerads and Doc Shaner is going to be super interesting, and frankly, Mitch Gerads is one of the best character actor artists in the industry, so you know that he's really going to do a good job at pushing emotion and all sorts of things, so I'm super excited to get into this and talk to you guys about it. Make sure, if you guys enjoyed this video, to please leave a like, subscribe to the channel down below, and stay tuned to the end of this video because we're going to have an opportunity for you to be able to win a free physical copy. That's right, I will mail you a copy myself. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into Strange Adventures #1. Alright, so one thing I do kind of want to clarify for anybody that's not familiar with Adam Strange is that there's one major plot device with the character in that he's indiscriminately transported between Earth and Rann via this Zeta Beam technology, and that's really all you need to know. It becomes a very inconvenient thing for the character, but it's also what provided him the opportunity to meet his wife, go on adventures in space, so on and so forth. And one thing to take note of as we're picking up with issue 1 of Strange Adventures by Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and Doc Shaner is that he's somehow able to retire to Earth now. That he is not being yanked to Rann, and I'm sure that developing the answer as to why that's the case is going to be a really interesting part of this series. Now, as we pick up with Adam Strange, he's at a book signing tour for this tell-all that he's written about his experiences fighting the intergalactic wars over on Rann. And these book signing tour scenes are going to be juxtaposed throughout the book along with scenes from his past on Rann as a narrative device to convey the duality of the soldier and the man alongside his divide between being a man of Earth and of Rann. Now, the first fan thanks him for his work and apologizes for the unfortunate circumstances surrounding his daughter, and it's foreshadowing some really interesting drama for the character because, well, we don't quite know yet what happened to his daughter and the circumstances surrounding that. The next fan thanks him for his service as one would, a military veteran of sorts, but it's important to note in this issue how the media coverage praises him as a war hero as of this point, even though they're not entirely privy to what happened while Strange was off planet. And the portrayal of people in the media, especially in modern day, one of the main themes of this issue is going to be the exploration of media portrayal. And so we cut back to Adam Strange fighting the picked race on Rann. Pay attention here because the little bit of dialogue that we do get is very deliberate in criminalizing the picked for firing first. Now, one would think that if this were a normal scenario, it's war, and there wouldn't be anything really considerable about that, but I think that this is a subtle nod to the narrative that Adam Strange is actually trying to spin out about his experiences over on Rann. At the next book signing, Adam is met by a man raging on about how he knows that Adam Strange lied about the war with the Picts, and the surrounding folks all record the encounter and throw it up on the internet. He claims that Adam tortured the Pict, put them in cages, and murdered them, and really frames Adam as more of a war criminal than a war hero. And this is interesting because from this point onwards, all of the cutting back and forth between Adam on Rann and Adam back on Earth post-retiring starts to really pick up in speed, and it really plays with not only the pacing, but it's also going to manipulate the way you're going to react emotionally. Because we're not really sitting on any of these moments, and they're very quick, volatile reactions that Tom King, Gerads, and Shaner are forcing us to push through. Immediately we go back to Adam battling the Picts, to an award ceremony back on Earth in his honor for the present day, then back on Rann where he learns that the capital city is under siege, and naturally Strange rushes away from the front lines to protect his wife and daughter. In the present, however, Adam and his wife learn via a news report that the enraged man from the book signing earlier was shot dead and decapitated by what seems to have been some type of laser. Of course, with the video of the confrontation having gone viral, Strange becomes the primary suspect, and of course, you know, it's not like lasers are entirely a normal thing to have been shot with, and Adam seems to have not only the means, but the motive here. Of course, Adam makes a public statement defending himself, but the media is relentless, and a war of truths develops between those who defend him and those who look to condemn him. Again, really playing to this theme of media portrayal and the question of what is really true. In a desperate attempt to disperse any cynicism towards him, Adam Strange seeks the help of an old friend to uncover the indiscriminate truth. He begs Batman to go full detective, offering to provide him with any potential evidence to prove his innocence. But the Caped Crusader declines due to a potential bias and lack of public credibility based on them being associated with one another. We then follow back up with Adam back in the capital of Rann, looking to escort his wife and daughter off planet. He boards the ship with his wife, daughter, and advisor, but just as the ship begins to take off, the Zeta Beam yanks him back to Earth. And with that, as the issue closes out, we're back in the present. Adam is reflecting on the loss of his daughter when he's interrupted by a knock on the door. The final panel of the issue reveals the replacement detective, referred by Batman, and it's Mr. Terrific. Okay, so I think I'm going to float a thought out to you guys. I think that the scenes that were drawn by Shaner of Adam Strange on Rann are kind of this idealized version of his past that he's included in the book. I think the scene that particularly lends to this is when the Picts are condemned by Adam for firing first, although it's war. You know, it's kind of just a practice. You shoot somebody to kill and win your war. So with that being said, I think that Adam Strange is trying to spin this narrative about what his experiences were on Rann, which might not particularly be true, and I think that's going to be an interesting thing that this book is going to explore moving forward. This book was really in Tom King's wheelhouse, and he sets up the thematic basis for the book between the split identity of the soldier and the civilian, and then going further into the war hero and the war criminal debacle, and finally the bipolar nature of media and so forth. I think it's very evident that King wants to tell a story through this series that is very relevant right now in the way that people will spin narratives through war and how the media tackles those things, and then how the public responds to the stimulus and the way media relays that information. I really like the cutting back and forth between the past and the present. It really helps to frame the narrative of Adam, and it keeps the pace very lively in that way. We don't get bored. And I really particularly like, again, how after he has that really rough encounter with the angry fan, the book really starts to speed up. And it does a good job at really controlling how you're going to react to it, because you don't really have the time to think things through. You see and you read, and immediately you feel those things. And I think it's really smart on behalf of King and Shaner and Gerads to not really allow you time to process those things. And it makes our reaction as the reader very volatile in that way. This book includes a lot of King's repetition tactic, but I think he fits it in very well, with the book signing setting up the tonal contrast of the issue's climax with the angry fan later, and then his preceding death. It also helps to develop this monotony for Adam that really defines his civilian life post-war. Moving into the art, what can I say? Mitch Gerads proves to be one of the best artists when it comes to character acting. Not only do the expressions and the body language evoke a very particular tone, but the panel layout and the use of the 9-panel grid guides the reader emotionally, and those very small transitions and gestures and in the camera angles that don't particularly frame what one would expect, like, you know, the body being center of the camera. You get those scenes where it's just a hand motion or a gesture of the leg. It's very, very deliberate, and I can really appreciate that through what Gerads does here. On top of that, he's just one of the best visual storytellers in comics. I think he has a really interesting aesthetic style. The way he's setting out these panel layouts, they really allow you to focus on the characters. And with that and the level of emotion he's able to fit into these panels, it just makes for some really, really attentive storytelling, and I can really appreciate that. But there's also the juxtaposition of Doc Shainer's art, which is a little bit more traditionally heroic and bright, and it helps to develop that dichotomy between the ideal of war and the aftermath of acclimating to society. I would kill for Doc Shainer to do some sort of modern retelling of Golden and Silver Age stories, because I think his style would fit that super well. Definitely go pick up this book. It's a great starting point, and as somebody who doesn't know a lot about Adam Strange except for some very tangential information, I found this book really accessible. And on top of the fact that it was a great book. If I have to give it a rating, it's got to be a 9 out of 10. Very, very, very good. 9 is near perfect, and Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and Doc Shainer really deliver on this issue. Now, if you would like the opportunity to get yourself a free physical copy of Strange Adventures #1, well, I have that here for you. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe down to the channel below, and let me know down in the comments what you think happened to Adam Strange's daughter. I'm really, really open to seeing this story unfold and figuring out what exactly is going on. In order to get this rolling, we have to hit 25 likes within the first 3 days of this video posting. And that's all thanks to my sponsor, AJ's Comics in Colchester, Connecticut. They are my local comic book store. And one beautiful thing about signing up a pull box with them is that you can manage everything online so that you don't have to wait. And for anybody that can't make it locally, they have a great mail subscription service where all orders $100 or more are shipped for free. And that still applies to those of you who are serving overseas on military bases. So, awesome shop. I spend more money there on my comics than I do on my utilities. I should probably stop doing that, but I probably won't. So make sure you guys go check them out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video from Dark Knight Nation.